fire it up.
Ustream, Facebook. Yeah. Catholic Radio, sure, why not? And then Catholic Underground.
Kablam.
Okay.
So I need to go to Catholic Underground to do the chat window?
You can go to any of those. Hi everybody, by the way. We are somehow live here. That's Olivia. Say hi, Olivia.
Hi.
That's Kathleen.
Hi.
Me.
And Father Ryan is there.
Howdy.
And then I'm over here too. So I can't really explain to you how we're here. I will say this, for those of you who remember the olden days, and I mean the olden days of Catholic Underground, let me tell you, this is just like the olden days, because we had to kind of duct tape things together. I tell you. So I'm coming to you from my, I guess it's kind of my studio area here in the rectory. All right. So I can tell you this. I don't know exactly what this show is going to do tonight because we're going to kind of be unplugged. But, I'll try to loosely follow all the official parts of the rundown. And then let's see. I'm going to try something out here, Father Ryan. There's something called the active speaker thing.
Uh-huh.
And I think if you have an extra hot mic, it just always stays on your camera because it's always staying on Father Ryan's camera.
Thanks for noticing. I've tried to turn it down. I don't know how to do it.
So let's see. Kathleen, if you say something.
Yes. Can I say something?
Oh, yeah, it switched to your camera. Good, okay. And Olivia, if you'll say something there, Olivia.
Hello, my name is not Kevin.
Okay, it's a little behind the curve, but I guess eventually it'll pick up. No, you're doing okay. It's all right. It's not your fault.
It's fine. I'm doing the best that I can.
The camera is cheese drunk as well. It's fine.
I would like to be cheese drunk. I really would.
I'm kind of like, we have cheese. We must.
I do have cheese. I have a lot of it of cheese, as a matter of fact.
Yes, well, social distance rules dictate that I can't have the cheese that you can have.
That's true. We cannot co-share cheese.
You can share a species, but not a specimen, you see.
That's true.
It's been a nonsense philosophy day for me. I apologize in advance.
Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and try to... good evening, everybody. We are definitely operating in Strange Mode Alpha. In fact, I just lost Kathleen and Olivia's camera.
Kathleen's back. Olivia's gone.
I'm here.
And look who I brought with me.
I don't have either of your cameras. Oh, there we go.
I'm quite happy, I guess, to be here. I would like some cheese. Please give me the cheese.
Ever.
I want the cheese.
He cannot have cheese.
I disagree. I would like to have the cheese.
Oh, you know what? I don't know if this is actually recording. Let me see.
Mine says Father is using a device that could record or broadcast this call.
What happened? What?
Mine says you are.
Oh, okay. Well, then I must be recording.
At least that you're using a device that could record.
Okay. Well, then I must be doing this. Okay. All right. Yikes. Creative Evangel. I'm just writing my T's here so that I can post-produce this.
So, are we following the...
No.
The MIDI friend?
Now, if you want to,
I was gonna pull it up.
I put our basic topics in there along with some Italian as a courtesy.
Ooh, grazie.
There you go. That's the extent of my Italian.
Davvero.
Unless you're talking about kinds of pasta, in which case I'm quite fluent.
Bucatini, parale.
Kroger just gave up on my brand of bucatini. I was using their store brand. It was delicious, and they just kind of bailed out on it. So I bought like 19 of them, like $1 a piece. So I'm bucatini drunk at the moment, but I haven't actually eaten any of them. I have lots and lots of bucatini.
Hi.
There's a brand that I think it's Rouse's carries. It's like Zarwala or something like that. Their bucatini is really good.
Yeah. Well, I found that for cacio e pepe, that's the way to go.
Yes.
Because you can't really get a good spaghetti in the U.S. unless it's a kind of a bucatini fat.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I like bucatini better. Bucatini is my favorite. Other than capellini, bucatini is my favorite.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Although I do admit from time to time, I will actually break it in half and do like baby children's style bucatini just because it's easier to eat. I know I'm a terrible human being, but sometimes when I just don't want to fight with eating pasta, like with a fork, if I'm just going to have a little bit, I break my portion in half and then it's easier to eat with a fork. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't like that. Hi, Ed.
Bye, Ed.
Yeah, that was Ed.
Ed.
Okay. All right. Let me roll up my sleeves here and try and figure out what's going on.
It's 7:01. Did we go live on the radio?
No, we're not live on the radio either. So, in fact, I don't even know what Jeff did. I can't answer any of those questions.
Well, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your candor, I should say.
You're both welcome.
Is Kathleen's screen frozen, or is she just staring really intently?
No, she's just looking deeply.
I don't know. Considering. I don't know what's. I do know that if people try to click on our live feed, what they're going to find is the Holy Mass, as a wallpaper. Folks, I'm just telling you, I don't know what's happening tonight. I really don't. I'm just gonna do my best. We're just gonna do my best here. We are.
There's Olivia again.
Wait, what?
Olivia's back. Yay!
Yeah.
Hello. I didn't know that I left.
In many ways, Olivia never left us. She still provides the same great food at the same great prices.
It's true.
I could charge more for being honest.
And you should. It's hard to find quality baked goods in this world.
All right. So my mama says charge 25% more than what you think you're worth.
Mm-hmm. If you're making homemade pasta, I need a new source for my bucatini fix. So if you're willing to get some semolina in from the old country, you let me know.
I can do that.
Okay. I feel like I need to make a couple of statements to all of you who are watching or listening on social media. This is a situation that is not normal. It is not normal, okay? So we do understand that you can't hear us on the radio right now because we are not live on the radio. Furthermore, our radio streaming provider just conked out somewhere around Thursday afternoon. So if you're trying to listen to us on TuneIn, it's not going to work. If you're trying to listen to us on the website, it's not going to work. If you're trying to listen to us on the app for Catholic Community Radio, it's not going to work. We've had a lot of things break, and I've presently got calls into just about everybody to try to figure out what's going on. What you're watching tonight is going to be our recording of the Catholic Underground program, such as it is, and we're using some alternative software. As you can tell, I am not in the studio in Baton Rouge. I'm in my rectory, and so please, all of your questions, all of your recognizing my misspellings, please be patient, please. Because this is something that we've been trying to put together throughout the day, and I'd like to have a good program. I really would. So please, Monday morning quarterback on Monday, but right here on Sunday, can we have the Catholic Underground? Okay, end of sermon. Thank you. Sorry, I got a whole bunch of things all of a sudden, and I felt the need to deal with them all at once. Please be patient. I promise you we will be patient with you. Please.
I'm not promising nothing. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Kathleen never makes any promises because we don't know if she can.
She does promise that her dog will not be getting any cheese tonight, which I think is,
That's true.
It's probably a good thing.
That's true.
Okay.
I promise to be as crotchety as possible if that's helpful to anyone. No.
I'm trying to get all of my crotchety out of my system.
I very much prefer that in people, so I think go for it.
I got plenty of crotchetyness.
And then on my screen here, I still can't figure out why it says the Holy Mass as the thumbnail. Like, there are all sorts of things I just can't figure out tonight.
Yeah. Leave it for another day. Does it affect anyone's salvation?
Well, in the chat room, you'd think so. Because everybody's saying, you misspelled this, you didn't do that right. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I can't.
No. If it doesn't affect anyone's salvation, it don't matter. I learned that from my daddy.
It's okay. Everybody in the chat room, I still love you quite a bit. More than you know. More than you know. Oh, look, I'm
still trying to get into the chat room.
Yeah, I know.
Hold up. No, don't start. Just give me the freaking... Stop the noise. There you go. Okay.
All right. I'm going to replace this with another slate here. Just so that... All right. And save. Catholic Underground is now spelled correctly on YouTube. It's probably not spelled correctly anywhere else, but it is correctly on YouTube. All right. We will begin the show. I promise you that.
Sweet Paulette. She is like our biggest cheerleader. Paulette, you're the best that there is. I'm just throwing that out there. She's so good.
All right.
What'd she do? I can't see
it. She just said, it's all good. It's going to be a great show.
Aww. That is really sweet. Does she want to come sit with me while I'm trying to online teach? That would be great.
That's Jessica. My little sister Jessica, that's her gift. Is she'll sit there and be like, you're doing great. You're doing great. It's going to be great.
Aww. You can come too.
Okay, let me find my timer. Because, gosh, I haven't used the Chimu timer in a very long time. I don't even know if it still exists.
Wow. Yes.
Sure enough, that's
from the way back.
Yes, but Chimu timer is not optimized for my Mac. It's been that long.
If you just tell Google timer and an amount, it'll do its thing.
Oh. It's been that long.
I love the close-up we just got of Kathleen's nostrils that y'all just completely...
Or is it countdown 1 hour is what you do. There's a Google way to do this. Yeah, you type in set a timer for, and it'll just give you a timer.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Oh, that's because I'm in Bing and not Google. That's why it's acting wonky.
All right. Whoo-wee. All right, folks. Let me just redo this here. Phew. All right. Okay, well, shall we pray?
Oh, yes.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Almighty God, we give you thanks in the midst of the storm. We ask, Lord, that you would send your Holy Spirit to be with us, to provide us with the calm that is needed, to provide us with courage that is needed, and to give us direction, O Lord. We ask that you would send your Spirit into our hearts so that we may say things that will help those on the way to salvation, and especially to provide courage for those in any type of fear. We ask, Lord, that that same Spirit be present to any who are sick or are suffering, especially those most ill among us. We ask also, Lord, for rest and repose for those who have died. We make this prayer and trust in all things through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, all right. Prayer is prayed. And let's see here. Let me just get this thing out of the way. Okay. I still don't know why it's stuck on Father Ryan as an active speaker, but it is.
I'm great.
Well, okay. I'll give you that one. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is oh gosh, how am I going to do that? I don't know how I'm going to do that. Why is the one thing that it won't let me do? Relays. I've got all these little screens on my screen here, and if I'm switching cameras, like in the old days.
Yeah, just so y'all know, this is the way it was for a long time.
A very long time.
Chaos, and we were talking earlier today. Stuff would just break. Like, it would be working for like an hour, and then suddenly it would just stop working. I mean, just at will.
Yep.
And now that everybody's live streaming again, we all feel like we're back in the 90s or the early 2000s.
That's exactly what I feel like.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd need like 4 extra monitors today, but apparently I do.
Back then we were literally like recording files and then emailing, MP3 files and having to clap to sync them up. It was just chaos.
We sure were. Gosh, I had forgotten about that. Yep, we sure did do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. I don't know if we're ready, but here we go. Kathleen, got it. Okay. All right. Stand by. I presume it's recording. I have no way of knowing. I really don't. Today on the show, I can't even get this right because let me try this again. Google Docs is failing me. Stand by. This is exactly like it used to be. Exactly like it used to be.
Yep.
Today on the show, creative evangelization, silver linings, how we're coping, our picks of the week, and so much more. The Catholic Underground starts right now. It is time for the CU Weekly, the podcast that tries to cut through the noise and find that still small voice and bring you the topics that matter. It's episode number 421. I am Father Chris Decker. Joining me this week, I promise you, we have Kathleen Lee. She is the Teachus Maximus, I guess Magistra Maxima at Our Lady of Mercy School in Baton Rouge. Of course, you're still exiled. Hey, Kathleen.
Hey, good to see y'all.
Yep, we've also got Olivia Galino. She is the student of life and resident Italian food critic. Hello, Olivia.
Hello.
And it looks like you've got behind you, if you're listening to us in the podcast, behind Olivia are some family members. Are these family members of yours
yes.
that are in picture, in black and white format?
Great-grandmother, number 1. Great-great-grandmother, possibly great-great-great, but,
There you go. Well, yeah, there you go. And also great is Father Ryan Humphreys. He's the pastor of St. Edward the Confessor Parish in Tallulah, Louisiana. He joins us, as always. Hey, Father.
I am rampant upon a field of books.
That's true, and I like your water stain on your ceiling too. It's very classic.
It feels very very lived in. You see.
It is very much lived in. That's true. That's right. Ed,
but at least right now it's not toxic, so
Well, that's good. That's true. It's not toxic. I should say that Ed set up cameras in the studio before he realized that we were social distancing this evening, so that we weren't coming into the studio. So Ed just called me and said, "Hey, you guys coming in?" I said, "Well, we're sort of already there where we're going to be." And Jeff's not feeling well. He's got a little sinus activity, so I said, "Hey, man, stay home." And everybody else is on assignment, so it's pretty much just the three of us and myself.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 3 of us and myself, right? Yeah, that's how.
I always get left out.
I love how Olivia automatically thought she was the odd man out.
Because I am. Even
no, you guys are the panelists. I'm the oddball.
I am always. Who's the person whose name y'all all forget?
Oh,
Kevin. Yeah, it's all right. Anyway,
Dachshund.
That's right. Yeah. So, okay. One of the things that we can all agree on is that this is an incredibly crazy time here in the land of quarantine. And one of the things that I don't know if you've experienced, presumably you in the Catholic world have, if you've gotten on any sort of social media, is Olivia, Kathleen, are your feeds being flooded by Mass every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mass, adoration, night prayer, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it really is quite something to see as you scroll along. In fact, Father Ryan and I were trying to figure out what was happening, where all of a sudden live streams weren't showing up kind of randomly. And I was wondering if there was something nefarious. But Father Ryan, I can only imagine that a lot of these streaming companies and social media companies are just trying to keep up.
Yeah, it's nuts when you think about exactly how difficult it is to go from, say, we've got 1,000 people streaming to having 3,000 people streaming, pretty much overnight. Mm-hmm. It's got to be just next to impossible.
Yeah, I mean, literally everyone is streaming something, whether it's us trying to get this program done or family members trying to keep in contact. There's a lot of bandwidth being traded, so to speak. And so we thought that we'd talk about some of the creative ministry things, the creative outreaches and apostolates that have been present, and just kind of talk about those sorts of things and how neat they are to see at work, because this really is a new moment for Catholics and I dare say Christians of any color on the internet, isn't that right?
Yep.
This is also the way it used to be, where you were.
That's right. I guess we should probably get this out of the way. That back in the day when Father Ryan and Deacon Joshua and I did this program, we did it exactly like you're looking at it now, and because there's no ability to kind of look at each other to kind of throw a topic, this is exactly what would happen. So, Kathleen, what are some of the ways that you've seen creative ministry at work? I know you've been involved in some of it as well.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of masses, a lot of adoration, a lot of homilies, and that's kind of a regular thing that I've seen. But some of the new things that I've seen are several of my friends, in fact, have been doing like nights of worship. Or even some of my friends that are in ministry are doing online retreats. So they're saying, hey, for these next 3 days or for this next 4 hours, let's commit to being on, you can register for this Zoom call or, whatever online platform they're using. And they can retreat together while not being together, which I think is awesome, because I know one of the things that when this first came about, I had probably at least 5 events lined up in the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. That for me was supplemental income, but for some people that's their whole life is to do ministry. And so it's been really cool to see some of my friends who do ministry full time to still be able to provide what they would at any other time.
Yeah.
And still this sounds weird, but to still make a small living off of it,
right? Exactly.
Their families.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what really changed overnight is a lot of folks who this is their livelihood, providing works in the apostolate is their livelihood, and now they're kind of faced with I can get on Facebook for free, but how do I get paid?
Right.
Yeah, and that's a troublesome thing. One of the things that I've seen that's really kind of cool, Olivia, are concerts that have been happening on the internet. And I was wondering if Matt, your beau, has done any concerts.
Not yet, but we actually were talking the other day, and we filmed this video because he and I are both staying at my parents' house, but we filmed this video of him like with his guitar, basically saying like he'll take requests from people, because we've seen some different people like on Instagram, bands that we follow and stuff that are doing that, and I'm like, that's a really cool like way to like still engage your fans when you're not able to like perform shows, and or just to like provide kind of like entertainment in a way that's not just like scrolling through Twitter and things like that. So I've seen some different bands do like virtual concerts and stuff, and so yeah, I think he should do it. If he has time, I think we're gonna get him to do that.
Well, the time is one of those things we all seem to have a good bit of these days. And greeting to Giovanni from Italy. Those of you in the chat room are saying that I love having the streaming of the Mass, Adoration, Stations of the Cross, the Rosary, and all that stuff. As much as I want the virus to end, I would love to see easy access to all of the above continue. And I tend to agree. Taylor, of course, the queen of the chat room, says, I've shared so many of your masses and prayers being said, and she's also working on graphics and finding articles to share. So this is kind of ramping up the work of the Catholic apostolate on the digital continent. And Father Ryan, I think I've said it before, like our hour has come. Catholic Underground was founded on these principles, and now they're kind of coming to some sort of strange viral fruition.
And not in ways we expected. I mean, I know you've had just dozens of texts, and I've had a number of calls where people who are not techie look at me and say, how do you live stream? I'm like, well, it's not quite the same as making a pancake, but I mean, and kind of walk them through it. But I mean, we've helped a lot of folks get online, people who are not necessarily tech involved. But then also, I think, kind of setting a standard for how do you make that look? How do you frame it up? What is the most basic package, and then what's a little bit better, and given how easy it is and given how free it can be, I'm hoping that a lot more priests will make theirs available. I was thinking today, just in my cry room, my cry room is not a very conducive place to, have screaming children, and being able to put, a TV there with a webcam, even for people within the church, could be a win for some people. And so this could turn out to bear some pretty good fruit.
Yeah, I'm excited to think of the ways in which fruit could be born from all of this, because, the way that people consume is very different. And I think what we're seeing now is that people that recognize that, what we've known for some time is that Catholics have to be present on the digital continent. But like I received a text just the other day actually it was yesterday, from a priest who said, okay, I've got the streaming thing set up. I've got the camera, set up, the situation's all working, the hardware is working. Now, how do I make it look good? How do I make it presentable? How do I give it an aesthetic that people will want to experience? And that's really the challenge, I suppose, is to be able to teach that as well, because you have to have a little bit of artistry in the midst of all of it, and things like that too. Is there something that in particular that any of you have seen that really go, wow, I really would like to see this continue long past when life goes back to actual normal? Is there anything that kind of hit you, Kathleen, that you can think of?
I've been playing around with some stuff. I know that Father Ryan gave me some lights and things like that, and it's interesting to see how many people are using like natural light. I love to make it look good. I'm always looking at, like right now, it's driving me crazy that my shot does not look good, but it's too late to fix it. But it's interesting. When I'm leading the rosary for Catholic Underground, I wanted to like shove it full of everything that was beautiful that I had, every statue and all these pictures, and I was like, okay, wait. But I think, just having a little table with, for me, it was a picture of Mary, and then having the lighting right. It doesn't take a lot, and it doesn't necessarily take equipment. Sometimes you can just use the light that you have, or, open a window, or,
Well, I think a lot of people are seeing that priests are recognizing that just shooting a camera at the priest's face while he stands at an altar is not a very visually appealing thing. And so a lot of priests are offering Mass ad orientem in their churches. And people are realizing just how beautiful that is and how it kind of makes sense, when the priest holds up the Eucharist and there's him, there's the Eucharist, and there's the cross and the tabernacle, and it all just kind of makes sense. I'm wondering how many parishes are going to start seeing the wisdom and the beauty of ad orientem worship, because it actually makes a better shot. And then people say, hang on a minute, there's an artistic part, but then it goes even beyond that into something that makes theological sense as well. And I've seen that in a number of masses, people are offering in the comments section exactly that sentiment.
Yeah, and I must say that I've been thinking about that as well, because as you know, whenever a priest is celebrating Mass towards the rising of the sun, towards the liturgical east, it makes sense for us, certainly, but I think what we're seeing now is an opportunity for the people to recognize, well, there's something that maybe is off kilter when Father is offering Mass to the camera, to me, because he's saying words to the Father, but he's looking at me, and so there is something that is that doesn't quite strike the right note, if you will, and the camera makes it all the more kind of apparent as well. And so one of the things that I do is whenever I am doing those things, like in the Liturgy of the Word, the things that are done from the chair, from the ambo, in the ordinary form, I'm looking at the camera, and then of course I'm addressing the camera whenever I'm giving the homily. But then, as the Roman Missal suggests, or actually as it says in red, there are times where I turn towards the altar because that's what makes the most sense. And it's not just aesthetic, but it's also the direction of our prayer. And as you say, that's become even more apparent in these days. And of course, I've seen it both ways, certainly. But it's important to note that I'm not turning my back on people. I'm facing the direction that is the cross. I'm facing the source of our salvation. And I think that we need to work on that kind of a language thing, because I've noticed that too. It's not my intent to show you my back. It's my intention for you to be led, and that's the way that we're able to do that. And I see that kind of comes about in the method of these masses.
Well, and if I could add one other thing that I think is very interesting is that back in seminary, we were forced to videotape ourselves offering Mass, which, gives you kind of a certain kind of sense of paranoia. Do I slur my words? Do I have a soft L sound sometimes, and I sound like I have a little bit of a lisp when I'm talking with an L? And it drives me absolutely nuts when I say holy, holy, holy Lord, and it doesn't come across in my head, but boy, does it come across on the camera. And I think a lot of priests, now that they're having to hear themselves and see themselves on camera just to, check out how the live stream went, are maybe going, gosh, that doesn't look good, or that sounds wrong, or that's too loud, or it's not loud enough. Mm-hmm. And I think it forces a lot of us to kind of retake stock of perhaps something that we've just been on autopilot with, in terms of our ars celebrandi, as we say, the art of the celebration.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be said, certainly, about that, and to kind of recatechize what we're doing. And I think that this is a tremendous opportunity for catechesis. And again, the church is big enough. There is an allowance for all of these different types of celebration, but to allow us to meditate upon the art of celebrating again is really important for sure. Those are some things that are at work. Olivia, has anything kind of struck you as like, gee, I'd like to see that continue after all of this is over and done with?
I guess maybe not as much from a ministry. There's certainly lots of ministry things, but the thing that came to mind whenever you asked that question was, I would love to see the amount of people that I have to avoid hitting with my car on the few times I've left my parents' houses in the past 2 weeks, but the number of people I have to avoid hitting with my car that are on bikes, that are on walks, that are walking their dogs, that are on either side of the street talking to their neighbors, that's been a really beautiful thing to see. Mm-hmm. I've never seen so much familial interaction or neighborly interaction before, and so that would be something that I would hope would continue. If this is anything but awful, it is awful, but if it could be also a recalibration of sorts to those essential kind of fundamental parts of being human.
I think lest we forget about, we talk about all the digital stuff, but if we can actually have actual experiences, actual conversations, actual relationships again, if that's one of the things that comes out of all this, then I'm all for that too,
Yeah.
Very good.
But I think, like Kathleen, I would like to see too. I saw that the Carmelites were doing a retreat this weekend. The Carmelites in Los Angeles were doing an online retreat this weekend, and I've seen some of the like content that came out of that, and I'm like, that is a beautiful thing, especially because like sometimes people are just looking for like self-guided retreats, but they can't afford to fly somewhere to take a retreat like that, or maybe I just can't really afford to like leave my house and go stay somewhere because that costs gas money and travel money and all that stuff. But like I can do a self-guided retreat in my home, or call a spiritual director and say, hey, I'm going to retreat this weekend. Will you be on, kind of on call for me? So I would love to see more of that, the availability of retreats, because I think sometimes like cost efficiency can be an issue with that. But if it's online, then some of that's mitigated. So.
That's true, and that's one of the things that we're seeing as well. So there have been not only creative ministry things happening, but kind of creative ways to encounter the world around us, and that's a beautiful thing too. A couple of folks in the chat are saying that they like watching Mass on the Catholic Underground, because we broadcast the Mass at this point on Catholic Underground, because you feel like you're participating and celebrating it, not watching a TV show. Now, that's Ars Celebrandi. You see, if we are able to do that, where you can actually enter into the Eucharistic ministry, it's very hard to do on camera. But Father Ryan, have you experienced that it's really a lot more taxing to celebrate Mass to a camera than not?
Yeah, I've found it to be strange. I mean, I'm doing mostly the traditional Latin Mass, which is pretty focused, and so it's not too hard. But when I'm doing the ordinary form especially, it's really, really kind of mentally wearing, in part because I'm trying to not to oversell, but I'm trying to, kind of look at the camera. And it's weird because there's a human interaction where you just naturally look at people. Preaching to camera is especially difficult for me because so much of preaching, and I don't know if this is your situation, but so much of preaching is about throwing something out there, reading the audience, reading the crowd. Is that landing? Is it not? Do I need to run that point again? Do I need to kind of go a different direction? And today's sermon was really choppy, my ordinary form Mass, because I kind of inadvertently wrote my sermon to throw out the point and just see what direction to go. And there was nobody there. So I was like, this was stupid. I wrote a sermon that was meant to be, kind of and I felt a bit like a doofus. And I was like, well, I don't really know where to go from here. I had to improvise because I was
you're just kind of staring at the camera. The camera doesn't tell you anything.
That's one of those things I learned about myself as a preacher. It's like, don't do that if there's nobody there.
I don't know if Kathleen can speak to the teaching side of that, but I've had that experience in recording lectures for my students where I'm ordinarily I would see whether or not they were interested in a certain point to decide whether or not to dive in deeper with it. But now that I'm left to my own devices, I find everything that I'm talking about interesting because this is what I've chosen to do with my life. So I just find myself having vomit of the mouth and just talking incessantly about things that they're probably in the classroom would be okay, we get it. Let's just move on to something else.
Yeah, I tend to do that anyway. And yeah, so I feel your pain. I do. Yep.
Yeah, my lectures seem to be a lot more shorter because I'm any questions? You in the back? No? Okay.
And your dog doesn't ever have any questions.
Yeah, I was wondering if the dog ever raised his voice,
Yeah.
Very cool. Well,
he's an English bulldog. They're famously reticent.
No, he's a French bulldog. There's a difference, right?
Well, they're famously not reticent, so
He is French. Oui.
Well, no, so he's apparently Parisian French and not kind of Canadian French. I see. It's very, very different. We'd have to bring in Roberto Veri to explain the differences. Okay.
That's right. Our Toronto bureau chief is unavailable for comment this evening. Albert, Albert from the Catholic Underground, he says, I think 90% of the problems with live streaming and video production is audio. People will put up with less than stellar video, but if the audio is bad, people will move on. And I found that to be true. Yeah. Whenever we've had audio trouble, people just kind of scroll on by, but not before reporting it, to all the chat.
Well, what's weird for me is I never wear audio equipment. I don't wear that Britney Spears thing. I don't wear a lav, and I haven't for probably the last 7 years. I haven't used a lav, and now I've got to use one, and it is tray awkward to, strike the breast. And I feel like I've got to be super, I don't want to scratch the thing. I don't want to bump the thing. And so I'm paranoid offering Mass, because in the old Mass, I've got a lot of bowing and moving and flailing to do. And I'm constantly worried about that big, wart there under my neck. And I'm like, don't touch it. Don't mess with it. It's just makes me nervous. And I haven't used it in years, so it's just not used to it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I myself, that's why I have the over-the-ear mic, is because I don't like all of the movement with the lavalier, because I tend to move a lot, as you can imagine, with my various, I'm demonstrative, So there it is. There it is.
Gesticulation.
Jojo in the chat room is wondering if Jeff is there. Jeff is off this evening. We gave him the evening off since our audio is our own. It's every person for him or herself this evening. Danielle in the chat says one of the things that she looks forward to is reaching out to those not already engaged in the church, searching for streamed masses and devotionals. And I think that's something that I've seen too, is people that perhaps haven't experienced the church in a while are able to kind of see us in our native place, but in the comfort of their home, or on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that we always talk about with Catholic radio, is that you get to kind of anonymously look in the window and see what's going on. Yeah.
It's a low obligation way to kind of ease in, or a low cost of entry way to experience Catholicism.
Yeah, and so my great hope in the midst of all of this is after it's all said and done and the churches are open again, please God, is that people say, I really did experience the grace of God in an extraordinary way while I was watching one of these devotionals or watching the Mass, and I want to go back through the threshold. I want to go back to the building. And that certainly is what I guess we could kind of transition. I'll go ahead and do the thing we normally do so that I can make an edit point, because this is the Catholic Underground. Alrighty, welcome back to the Catholic Underground. We are the podcast that tries to cut through the noise and find that still small voice. Our picks of the week are coming up in just a bit, but I think what we'll do now is to talk about maybe some of the silver linings that we've experienced, not just from the streaming bit, but there is some silver lining to the fact that we are all now effectively monks and religious. And so what do we do? What silver linings have we found? Have you found anything yet, Kathleen? Other than
I'm still looking for. Many have popped up. I'm just not like. I'm a little bitter and a little like way out of my element. Being an extrovert has been really difficult, and so I'm trying to. I think for me it's been. Really understanding that this is it for a while. And so I know that the Lord is calling me to stillness and quiet and deeper prayer, which has been really cool. Being able to be a part of what my family is putting together, what Catholic Underground is putting together, and that's certainly been a silver lining for me. Is like. Now there's no, like, I think for me being a part of ministry is when you go to and you put on all these retreats, when you're in charge of things, and Olivia, you may understand that. You all will understand this, but when you're in charge of something like a retreat or a conference or something like that, I always get kind of caught up in the planning of it. And so I'm like, oh, sure, I was on retreat. Yeah, I went to Master and conference, but I'm always doing logistics. Like, there's no real entering into what's actually going on. And so with all that stripped away, it's been like, the Lord is saying, okay, let's get real, and take a look at yourself. I know that was something when everything was starting to shut down, I started to panic a little bit because I knew that was coming. This idea of you're going to be alone with yourself and with your thoughts, and it's going to be a real look at who you are as a Catholic, and what you're doing and what you need to do better at. It's like it's like the Lord kicked Lent into my face.
Yeah, can you resonate, Olivia?
Yes, yeah. So whereas Kathleen is like what I would consider to be like the textbook definition of an extrovert, I am happily in my little introvert box. And so like my initial reaction to like the mandate to stay at home is like, ooh, I was already planning on it. So that maybe is like a little bit of a difference, but I think for me, like the silver lining, oh boy, I'm kind of like Kathleen too, where I'm like, it's been a little hard to find a silver lining, if only because like for me, like the experience of being at home has been very frenetic and very busy and very like go, because like I'm trying to teach 140 students.
140 online.
Yeah.
Kathleen, how many are you teaching? Do you have a whole?
That's almost exactly as many as I have. Yeah, 140. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Except hers are in middle school, so just Venmo Kathleen so that she can buy chocolates for herself. I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. So you're having to kind of extrovert in an introverted way while still trying to teach.
Well, it's like, so being in quarantine and doing online things puts like all of my like this is going to sound weird, but like all my social anxieties to the test, because like I'm not a person who loves to talk on the phone. I'm not like dying to Skype people. Like these aren't things I like person to person, like face to face interactions, like in-person conversations. I'm all about it. But like, so doing things on the computer that have to be meaningful stresses me out. And so, but I think the silver lining has been to see like, to have the comfort of knowing that like all the people that I love are safe. Especially like the people that I love and friends that are in New Orleans and everything, and where it's kind of the hotbed of it. And also like I've kind of grown in my understanding of like what I'm able to do, and like how much I depend on grace to be able to do those things. And also how much I depend on like the grace that's given to me through the people around me. That's been something that I've been kind of reflecting on the past few days, is just realizing that like God has gifts to give us through the people that are nearest to us, even if, maybe it's not always the person that we're like closest to, but sometimes it is. But that God has graces to give us through those people and our interactions with them. And so that's been something that I've kind of grown in, is relying less on myself and more on God and other people. So that's been good.
Yeah.
Very Lenten.
Father Ryan, have you noticed any silver linings in your forced Lenten exile?
Well, the phrase, the buzzword when we talk about technology in the Catholic Church is yesterday's technology tomorrow. In that there are a shockingly large number of parishes that are still operating behind a 15-inch monitor, a 1998 compact computer, a copy of Word 2000, and it's a god awful disaster. And more churches now are being forced to say, look, we've got to do better. There's more than just, putting out a bulletin from Microsoft Publisher, and sending it to some place across the country and saying, here, make us something that looks like, the Tokyo Business Convention of 1994 as our bulletin. And so the god awful garbage that we've been doing in evangelization in a lot of parishes is being shown to be completely out of touch. And I think that's an incredible silver lining. I think, too, that the other stuff we were talking about, priests being a little bit more self-aware, I think the faithful looking up and saying, I want more for my priest. Is my priest saying Mass? Is he figuring out a way to do confessions? Because that's not a trivial thing to do. How much energy is he putting out? Or is he just very happily, sitting at home, and taking this as a vacation? I think there's a lot of opportunity here for the faithful to take the advice of Pope Francis and make some noise and say, hey, This is not a vacation for you. This is an opportunity for you to minister. You need to call. You need to text. Your cell phone needs to be out there. This is not you being hidden. This is you kind of forcing yourself to minister in a way that is out of your comfort zone. And hey, and it's out of my comfort zone too, but I think it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us in the church to get past kind of a frozen in time mentality and say, hey, the future is here, and this is an opportunity that God is using to drag us into it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that on several points. Sharon in the chat says, I'm hoping this stay at home will give able-bodied people a little insight into the lives of those who are shut in all the time. Mm-hmm. And I know that I've definitely meditated on that quite a bit, and that's been one of the things that has really fueled what I bring into night prayer. For those of you who follow on the Catholic Underground Facebook page and on YouTube, I've been doing the night prayer of the church, the Compline office of the church, now for almost 2 weeks, Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. Central Time. And I can't describe it any other way to say that the Lord said, do it. He said, you need to be on the air at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and you need to start tonight. And that was like 2 Tuesdays ago. So right before the orders came down where everything was going to be locked down pretty much everywhere. And I said, Lord, I really don't feel like doing this. This is, I need to take just some time. And the Lord says, no. Right now, you need to get on the internet like you used to at 9 o'clock. And I said, okay, all right, I will. And one of the things that I've noticed is that when everybody can't go anywhere, all of a sudden, as all of you are saying, we have to take stock, and we also need to know that someone else is there, and we need to know that our priests are there. And to be able to be present in this very strange and weird, seemingly one-sided way, right, where I can only see the chat room, but I'm also encountering the hearts of others. And in a sense that you're encountering my heart too, because I mean, as you said, Olivia, sometimes you feel like you're just kind of blabbering and you just start talking, right? Well, most parishioners don't get to see that on Sunday, right? Because they see a 9 to 15 minute please homily and no longer, and they don't get to see their priest outside of the Mass. And so that's one of the reasons I do the check-in, because I feel like one of the things that we as priests need to be able to do is to invite this kind of transparency, if you will, where you can kind of look in a little bit to see where we are. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. In fact, a couple of you are saying that in the chat room that's been very helpful for you. Yeah. And we're very appreciative of you who are shut in, who watch us and who take in our media all the time. And also, believe it or not, I find night prayer comforting to be able to celebrate that with everybody. And I found a renewed desire for the Liturgy of the Hours, actually, in praying night prayer with you all, because it's something that we priests have to do anyway. But at the same time, to be able to pray it in the midst of you, which is really where the offices of the church began, right, was in monastic life, right, praying back and forth to each other in song. In a sense, I get a sense of that whenever I'm praying, and so it's helped me out. That's one of the silver linings for me, for sure. So yeah, we'll see what continues throughout the midst of that. I don't know. I really don't. But we shall see. All right. So let's move from there. I don't think I'm going to throw to our prayer commercial, because I think I went well through that, and hopefully our friends at Catholic TV and the Catholic Faith Network won't mind not having a local cut in. But these are strange times. Do what you must, But I think what we'll do now is move into from the looking at the silver linings to having kind of like a mini check-in for the Catholic Underground crew. So Kathleen, I'll start with you. You're effectively under quarantine like we all are. Are you stir crazy yet?
Yes. Yeah, at first when this all was going down, I was like, I'll go to Nashville and visit my friends. I'll, fly to Denver.
Yeah, you had travel plans worked out.
Yeah, I did. Because I thought, let me get it in before this gets out of hand. For me, I have type 2 diabetes, so and I don't.
Yeah, you're in a risk factor, right?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and so of course my parents called and said we don't really think it's a good idea. You have compromised immune system, and I'm like, I'll do what I want. And then and then all the people, everything that came on the television was, they would list at least 3 diseases, and all of them listed diabetics as a huge risk. And so for me, it's turned from this desire to go out and still being able to kind of do that, but also like the reality of it that if I were to get sick, that it's worse. It's just, it's not about whether I catch it or not. Cause like, I'll just catch it and it's no big deal. But now it's, really thinking about, because it's just me. I'm not, there's nobody here. I don't have, kids that are susceptible, or I don't live with anybody who's elderly. So it's just me. And I'm kind of a renegade, like I said, I just do what I want.
That's true.
But really having to think about, what would happen if I did get sick, and, my parents not being able to come and help me, which they always do. And so it's really like, I went to the store today and I wore gloves. Like I put them on. I was like, looking like a dummy walking through the store. But it was, you just start to think about everything you touch and everybody that you come into contact with, and who are you exposing people to? If it's just crazy. So for me, it's really been, okay, who are the trusted sources that I can look to in the media. I don't trust anybody who says this came from a friend's, uncle who works in the hospital. Okay, yeah, right. And really heeding what people are saying, but also looking for opportunities, like we said, just to use this time to be available to my students, but to take care of myself and, spiritually, physically, mentally. I've done a lot of reaching out to other people and just saying, hey, just checking on y'all. And they're like, hey, thanks for, just saying hello. And it's people I haven't talked to in a while. I talked to 2 friends last night who I met in Africa in 2009. And I just shot them a text message. I said, hey, I'm just checking in with y'all. And they were like, I can't believe you, like,
of all people. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but it was cool. It was cool to hear from them and get some life updates. And so I'm just trying to not go insane.
Well, it sounds like you're actually able to be your extroverted self, right?
Yeah.
And even for the introverted, so Olivia, how have you gone stir crazy? I mean, the natural place of the introvert is, swaddled in a blanket, sitting in a bay window, reading with a cup of tea, right?
Oh, that sounds so nice. Oh. Yeah, I mean, so I actually, like, whenever I could see the writing on the wall, like, they had told us that we were out of school and that we would be doing online school, and you could start to see, like, the CDC getting stricter and stricter with their guidelines for, like, how many people can be together in a space, all that. I was like, you know what, like, so I have my own house and everything, but I was like, I don't really want to be sitting in a house by myself for at least a month.
Yeah.
And because I know, like, yes, I'm an introvert, but I also know my tendency to, like, get too lost in my own thoughts. And so I was like, I just don't need to know myself that well. And also, like, I know my tendency towards anxiety. That's been something that's, like, been a little bit of a struggle for me, like, vulnerability moment for me. But, like, yeah, like, all the, like, constant news and, like, I'm in a risk category as well, and that makes me even more nervous. And so, like, I was like, you know what? I don't need to be sitting in a house by myself, all, like, worried and eat up. So I was like, I'm going to go stay with my parents, and that's okay for a grown woman to do.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Shout out.
Yeah, and then, my boyfriend lives in New Orleans, and so I was like, you know what? Like, you can come stay in my old apartment. Like, it's safer here. And so, like, it's been a lot of me, like, trying to fight away, like temptations towards anxiety. But like, I think for the most part, a lot of that has, like, leveled off. I have, like, I don't know, like a rule with myself now that like, because my mom's a nurse and she's very level-headed when it comes to things like this, I'm like, I'll ask her, and whatever she says, like how are things going? What do I need to know? And other than that, I don't need to be reading things because it just freaks me out. So
yeah. Controlling the information that you take in, as well as the source of that information, is very, very important for sure. Yeah. Jojo in the chat room says Olivia is my spirit animal. Have you ever gotten that before? Yeah, I know. That's quite a compliment, isn't it?
So sweet, Jojo, and I love your name too.
Yeah, there you go. Father Ryan, now you also are an introvert, believe it or not. And I mean,
it's a weird blend. The Myers-Briggs thing puts me as someone who is naturally very introverted, but when I'm outgoing, I'm basically channeling my father, who is a raging extrovert.
He is. I can. Yeah, that's people. True.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of fun psychology going on beneath my ample brain, but or within my ample brain, beneath my ample bald spot is what I meant to say, but it didn't play out that way.
I thought you said your animal brain, but I didn't.
No. Well, actually, when I led exposition the other day, that bald spot was like a flaming, crown of, oh dear God, you're bald, and not a little, very, very bald. At any rate, even I am starting to get a little stir crazy. I've gotten into 3D printing, and I've printed everything I could think to print. I have reorganized, rearranged, cleaned, and I actually got out Clorox bleach and scrubbed all the cabinets in the house. My house is very, very clean, and there's nothing else to do. It's quite challenging. I have prayed a lot, I have read a lot, and there's still nothing else to do. So I don't really know. I've exercised until all my muscles hurt a lot, and I'm basically getting done with my day around 11:15 in the morning and looking around going, what else can I do? So I have engaged in quite a lot of unnecessary television watching, which I'm not super proud of, but it is what it is. Because there's just, the life of a priest ends up being pretty out there with the folks, and there are no folks to be out there with. It's hard to shift gears. So I'm definitely itching for the opportunity to visit with some folks, talk to some people, and not just on the phone, but have some actual interactions and hear about how people are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, today I opened up the church for Eucharistic adoration from 8 a.m. until 2, and put all the proper CDC protocols in place and signs on the door and things like that. And if you promise not to tell anybody, of course, I realize this is going out over national television, but don't tell anybody. But a couple of the folks that happen to be present for Eucharistic adoration, one of them is a catechumen, and the catechumen, or I should say, the director of the catechumenate, and the sponsor said, would it be all right if we did the third scrutiny? Since it's the fifth week of Lent, can we do the third scrutiny? And I said, quickly. So after I reposed the Blessed Sacrament, there was still just a few people in church, and I had my binder with the scrutiny in it, and we did the scrutiny. And I said, the Lord be with you. And there were a couple of folks in the church, and they said, and with your spirit. And I paused for a minute, and I went, inside my heart, I went, oh my goodness, you spoke. You spoke back. You asked for the Lord to be with my spirit, and I heard it. And I might have even said at that point, it is so good to hear you say that, And it was just a little bitty inkling. And of course, we went through the scrutiny and everything. With I was 6 feet, but and all that. But it really was. I realized how lonely a priest gets if he doesn't have his flock to minister to in person, and that really is something that I didn't expect to find. So much of what we do as priests is in situ, right? In the person of, whether it's sacramentally or whether it's just simply being priests to people, and we offer sacrifice. That's the principal thing that we do, but it assumes that we are somehow connected to our flock. And so I think that my stir craziness is, and this could just be part of the extrovert in me, is not always being able to hear the end with your spirit, even though I know that it's there, So yeah, my stir craziness. I'm getting a little stir crazy today. I found out that that my mom, as you know, is in nursing home care, and found out that that there was one case at the nursing home. That person's in isolation. They're taking all the protocols and everything, but all of a sudden it hit me today in a new way. That here I am isolated. My mom, God love her, is isolated for her own safety and good health, as they all are there in the nursing home. She doesn't, to my knowledge, have the virus or anything like that. But all of a sudden, like the bricks kind of came down on my heart today, and so yeah, I experienced the stir craziness. But at the same time, so in that same breath. What shows up on my doorstep but boiled crawfish, like 2 pounds of boiled crawfish today. And that softened the blow a little bit, because a couple of ways today my parishioners reached out, either by text message or through our internet channels here, to say, Father, we love you. And, I think that tell your priests you love them because we need to hear that. And certainly for all of you who are watching on the Catholic Underground, and those who are my parishioners, and those of you on Catholic TV and all around the world, I just want you to know that I love you as well. And part of the reason that we're continuing to do this in this really weird circumstance, trying to get this technology to work, is because we love you. And you're not alone. And I want you to know that. And certainly on behalf of all of us, we want you to know that you aren't alone. So, yeah. All right, so here we go. That's kind of how we're dealing with the stir crazy. I'm still dealing with it. I have my Avengers shield in the background. Daniel has pointed it out on the chat room. It isn't the metal one; it's the plastic one. So don't be too jealous. But it still looks really, really cool on my wall. Okay, all right, here we go. So that's the silver lining. That's the stir craziness, and you can let us know how you're dealing with it if you want to. Backchat at CatholicUnderground.com is always the place to do that. But before we leave you, let's take part in that part of the show that we like to call the CU Pick of the Week. And so for our first Pick of the Week, we'll quickly go to Kathleen. Kathleen, you got one?
My Pick of the Week is nurses and doctors and all those people who are in the healthcare field, who are putting in all the hours and all of the vulnerable moments that they are, they've been in our prayers. My cousin Elizabeth works in a stat care clinic, and so she's exposing herself every day to anybody who comes in with anything, whether they know it's the virus or not. And so these are people who love their job, who many across the world are choosing to stay at the hospital instead of come home. For many reasons, to be available, but also to protect their families, and they're staying away from their families for long amounts of time. So they deserve a big hoorah.
That's a good pick of the week.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Olivia, your pick of the week there real quick. No? None? Zero?
Well, I have one, but then I just can never follow Kathleen. I too want to echo the sentiment that nurses and doctors, God bless you all. So my pick of the week is an app called Scrabble Go. We've been playing a lot of Scrabble to kind of keep our minds engaged and stuff, and and I love Scrabble personally. But there's an app called Scrabble Go, made by Hasbro, and it's a little bit clunky when it comes to ads and flashy things and whatever, but in the end you can play Scrabble against a computer and kind of keep your mind sharp, or against other people. It's kind of like Words with Friends. But yeah, that's my pick of the week.
Scrabble Go. All right, Father Ryan, your pick of the week in our 7 minutes that we have left.
Yeah, just quickly, there's a service called GiveBackBox.com, GiveBackBox.com, and basically it allows you to take all the boxes that Amazon sends you to put whatever you want in them, clothes or things like that, things you can donate. You print out a label, you slap it on the box, and you just drop it back. You drop it back outside, and the UPS guy takes it away to donate to charity. I usually like to give to the Red Cross or to the Salvation Army, but this is a great little service. It's completely free and it allows you to make donations from home And so if you have some stuff you want to offload, givebackbox.com.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, that's a neat idea. My pick of the week is what we've been using to stream to you. It's actually a really robust little diddly-do on the internet, Restream.io. Restream, they have a free tier that allows you to stream to a whole bunch of different services, as well as your personal YouTube page and your personal Facebook page. But if you get into the paid tiers, you can stream like we're doing to multiple Facebook public pages, as well as personal pages, and to YouTube. And so that's the way we've been able to reach so many of you at the same time. And so that's my pick of the week, just because I think it's cool, and it could be a good little foot in the door for those of you who are trying to figure out what your digital apostolate is going to look like on the other side of all of this stuff that we call the COVID-19 crisis. This week, the Catholic Underground is possible because of viewers like you, listeners like you. I promise you that, because I've had to buy a few annual subscriptions to things like this, just kind of on the barrelhead, just like that, no questions asked. So if you want to join in the growing number of undergrounders, you can find out more at catholicunderground.com/donate. And of course, an important way to support us is to like us, to heart us, to star us, and to share us on your social media platform of choice. And if you really like our podcast, you can stop by iTunes or Spotify and leave a little review just to let other people know what's worth listening to or watching in this podcast. Our panelists this week have been Kathleen Lee. She's the Faith Ninja and the Hope Samurai at KLee626 on Instagram and Twitter. Isn't that right? Or you're not on Twitter?
I don't think I'm on Twitter. I mean, I am, but I don't know if it's the same thing.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, anyway, you're close enough, yeah. And Olivia Galino is the most difficult one. She is at the.real.omg on Instagram and on Twitter as well.
Yes. On both of those. It's not that hard. You did great.
Okay, I tried. I had time to read it. Our technical director is Jeff Blackwell at Jeff Blackwellis on Twitter. Our research assistant and the leader of the crew in the lab is Jim Hayes, although we went way off the reservation and just kind of, hung out tonight, which I think we kind of all needed to do. I know I needed to do that. Our video and graphics director is usually Ed Ball, even though we gave him the night off. And, Father Ryan, I forgot to mention you. You're at FR Humphreys on all of the social media.
At FR Ryan on Instagram, FR Humphreys, everything else.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, because there's some FR Humphreys somewhere on Instagram that's not you.
Humphreys, yeah.
There it is. And you know me. I'm Father Chris Decker. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Digital Catholic and almost everywhere else, I think. We hope that we've helped you cut through the noise and find that still small voice. We are the Catholic Underground. We are Faith Gone Digital. We'll get through this together, and we will see you next time. And now is the part on the show where we usually just talk to each other to make it seem like, but it doesn't really work here because I'm just talking at the camera. Jojo says, before we go, she needs to thank Father Ryan and Father Chris for praying for her preborn baby on the El Camino. Well, we were happy to do that for sure. Very much so. All right, I'm still showing 3 minutes and 25 seconds on the clock, but I figure that graphics, when I insert those, that'll be all eaten up. Probably not.
Can't you cut your local in there at some point?
I probably can, yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but I probably can do that. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow because I'm sure this edit will take 15 hours again, just like it used to. Not because the technology
used to.
Yeah, not because the technology is any better, but because I fully expect to have a 1996 experience tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. In every way. I mean, gosh, that was miserable.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
Oh, it was so awful. And that was audio only, and it was still a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to see the dark times of Catholic Underground, go and look way back in the Vimeo. I think, well, we started video on episode 107. And so, if you want to see how that started, and you have nothing better to do because none of us have anything better to do, I proceed at your own risk for sure.
Well,
all right, everybody.
Christopher at that point was the only one who knew anything at all about video. So Father Josh and I looked, worse than this frame up here. It was more like, there you go. Hey, how you doing?
That's really very true. Terrible. Yeah. In fact, of the evening, I think my camera shot might have been the worst tonight, just because I was I didn't. That's the one thing I didn't check was my camera shot. But oh well, it's all right. It's okay. So yeah, thanks.
C'est la vie.
C'est la vie, as they say. So thanks to Kathleen and Chunk for joining us.
Isn't he the cutest?
He is. He is.
How's Coco?
Coco is fine. Coco is my cat. I don't know where she is. Anytime I start broadcasting, she goes, "Oh, I'm out." Yeah. PJ in the chat room is wondering if we can access the CU archives. I didn't get all of the archives transferred over to the Catholic Underground website yet, but if you go to vimeo.com/CUTV, you can go pretty far back, and I think all the way back to episode 107, because I think everything's been archived there. There might be a skip here or there, but and then of course if you look on the Catholic Underground YouTube page, I must say that I have not done a very good job of cultivating that. So maybe I'll do that this week when I have a little time to do all of that. All right, and to Olivia and Father Ryan, thank you very much for your presence. This didn't turn out as bad as I thought it was going to.
It wasn't bad at all. Wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, and hopefully it edits together well. So to all of you who are in the chat room, thank you for your presence. And unless something else happens, we'll see you next week. All right, talk to you later. Bye.